through the love winds. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are. Welcome back to episode number 7 of the Reconnect with the Teenager podcast with yours truly, Emma G. Of course, in partnership with the Ranters Union, helping to make this, the best podcast possible for any teachers, parents, therapists, youth workers, or just teenagers out there who are looking for potentially unconventional ways to become happier, healthier human beings. Now, today I'm super pumped because this human has dialed in all the way from Greece, which is, by the way, on my bucket list. Tyler Copenhaver-Heath, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is somebody who is, he runs a podcast. He is a serial entrepreneur with an MBA behind his name and the scientific know-how of a biochemistry undergrad with a deep understanding of systems and the way things work. Now, I love this particular, this topic, the topics that Tyler uses, because he runs something called the Bully This podcast, which is all about how bullying has led to young people and older people becoming the best versions of themselves. And I talk about this all the time. Adversity makes superheroes. And so that's pretty much what Tyler talks about in his podcast. But of course, that has branched out into multitudes of other things to help other people become and identify and find their best selves. But enough about that. Let's hear from the man himself. What's up, Tyler? How's it going? Happy 7th episode of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me on lucky number 7. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes. So tell me, first of all, your podcast is based in Arizona.
Yes.
You are based in Greece. You started this entire entrepreneurial journey of this particular topic started with a podcast of your own called Bully This. How did that even come to being a thing, and what happened?
There's so many ways that it kind of finally came together. Like, I can't do anything unless it makes sense in a lot of different ways. And, endeavoring into some of the research and then seeing a problem that I felt that I needed to help with. And a lot of that is, and I tell people this all the time, if you look at something, see something, and there's a different type of pain that hits you in a different level, which I saw this documentary Bully on Netflix, excellent documentary, please check it out. And I'm like, I got to help with this. I don't know how I'm going to help with this. And around this time I had just sold my last business. And so I had a little extra time. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to go ride the bus with these kids maybe. And so I literally thought maybe I can just go ride the bus with them and then they won't get picked on at least for the bus ride. And I'm like, well, I can't ride the bus with everybody in America. And, and so
no, that attitude.
as much as I'd like. And so mixed martial arts has been a big part of my life for a lot of years. And my training partner, co-host Clifford Stark, was in the UFC. Amazing human. We've been training partners for a long time, good friends for a long time. He was actually a bullied kid, which you would never bully him now. So started talking to him about this, and so it's let's try to do something about this. And there was a lot of different attempts at this. First we thought maybe we just get in touch with celebrities and that sort of stuff, and we get them out, kind of like Cliff, let's get them involved with mixed martial arts. And then it's well, everybody doesn't love mixed martial arts, so then let's also talk to somebody about music and get them involved with music. And so that kind of we started reaching out and maybe we could do these collectives and get kids involved with this group. And that it wasn't coming together, but we weren't actually far off with what what we've learned through the podcast is the most important things. And so eventually it's well, what if we just build awareness? Because part of it is seeing the journey, right? And so we take people that are amazing individuals that have done amazing things now in life that were bullied in their younger years. And when you hear their stories, then the hope is kids are you know what, that person is like me. And look, they made it out, and look at now the amazing work they're doing. And you're dead right on adversity. It is the key indicator, higher than IQ, for success. If you can overcome adversity, then you can do amazing things. And these kids have a heart for where they came from too, right? That's why it's so important to get them through that gauntlet, because they grow up and they deal with that adversity, they have that heart, and then they do amazing things, right? And so the hope is there's collateral impact to all this.
I love that. And I love that you come from, I mean, so I'm a little bit biased. You've totally hit my heart in the feelings because my fiance is a Krav Maga instructor and I'm the musician. So the
Yeah.
fact that you are sort of incorporating all these very what seemingly tends to be thought of as very different approaches to helping people. I think, there's a lot more similarities between us as people than I think we often give ourselves credit for. And the fact that, you're able to have these conversations with such a variety of people. You've got models, you've got, fighters, you've got comedians, you've got baseball professionals, like there's so many, the diaspora of people that you're covering and kind of highlighting their superherodom is just such a beautiful thing. I want to kind of take a step back and look at you as Tyler. So how did you get to this space? Like, were you somebody who struggled with being bullied as a child?
You
Can
know,
I ask that?
so yeah, no, please do.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's weird. So you do something you deem to be for somebody else, and then like it actually ends up helping you and learning more
Oh,
about yourself, right? And
absolutely.
so I would never have announced that I was a bullied person. I would never have thought that, or anything, because bullying is perceived as a kid bullying another kid, right? And I didn't have that issue growing up.
Hmm.
Now, what I did have is I had an issue with teachers and principals, and I was treated, actually looking back reflectively, for the type of kids I was. I wasn't treated fairly, and I was told I was stupid, and these are things I believed for a long time. So I was bullied as well. It was just a little bit different avenue of being bullied, and people are
Right.
bullied still as adults too. I actually get bullied as an adult. I'm a 220-pound guy, and like I've trained for years and I love to lift weights, but I go into the weightlifting gym and people aren't always nice to me, like they want
Oh,
to pick
they,
on
they
me,
need more
you
hugs.
know
Okay, okay, I
yeah,
see
they
that.
do, and it's like, lucky enough, I'm confident in myself, and like it doesn't even bug me, and so,
Hmm.
but I mean, the point is, there's different types of bullying. It's not always clear cut on what it is, right? Even a kid that's getting bullied, maybe sometimes it's their friends,
Hmm.
right? Or they're who they perceive to be their friends, and they're kind of beating them down all the time, and that can have its effect too. So bully isn't as easy of a definition as we always think it is.
For sure, for sure. I mean, you're hitting me in the feelings right now because, I have had 10 brain surgeries. So for me, I've always kind of, I've kind of turned that into being able to wave my freak flag proudly.
Yeah.
But everybody's like, why would you call yourself a freak? Like on one end, and then on the other end, it's like people are then they're telling me blatantly, "Oh, you're a freak. You're a Frankenstein." I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with this. This makes my superpowers even
Oh,
stronger. Um,
absolutely.
and
I'm sorry
so
you had to deal with that, but obviously that gives you a chance to reflect on life and what's important and being your own individual, so.
Well, I appreciate that. Although I have to say, I find it funny when people say, I'm sorry you had to go through that, because for me, I don't know any different. It's like
Yeah.
complaining about having to wipe your ass every day. Like,
Yeah.
okay, shit happens, quite literally. Like, you know what I mean? So it's about like what how we interpret the things that we go through as opposed to just letting ourselves go through them. Growth
Oh, I
growth as opposed to just going through, you
I
know.
couldn't I couldn't agree more. I mean, I almost feel bad sometimes kind of reflecting on some of this stuff because it was somewhat confusion, a lot of times, but I've been to the point where a couple different times I thought I was not going to be in this world any longer. One
Hmm.
I thought for a month, and one I thought for a couple weeks or whatever. And actually, I was just in Asia. It was in Asia where it almost got me 12 years ago, and so
Oh
and
wow.
and
Okay.
it actually allows you, like to reflect on things, and being the difference between reflecting on it when there was like a short amount of time that I thought things were going to end. That was a different reflection than having, a month to where I thought things were going to end for me. And, I don't know if the feeling for you, but I did a lot of soul searching, and it helped me actually find out who I was even more. And I think, like you're saying, that's why I get what you're saying. It's not
Mm.
fair for me to be on that level because it sounds like you've gone through some stuff, but I get to a certain extent what you mean about it can be a blessing too.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to compare trauma, or journeys. I think, everybody experiences trauma differently and everybody makes sense of life differently. It's just a matter of making sure that what we're doing is healthy as opposed to, and it's funny that you did that in Asia because I was in Vietnam when I had my first aha moment. So there we go.
I was in Thailand. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Thailand training Muay Thai.
Of course, of course. I did some CrossFit workouts but I hadn't yet leaned into my Krav Maga love yet. So that's fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're a fan of movies. One of the things that you mentioned in your bio really reminded me of the film The Butterfly Effect, which is one of my favorite films. Because you mentioned something that you refer to as collateral impact, a ripple effect of financial stability, job creation, and community development, all brought on by the success of small businesses. And I'm assuming, maybe incorrectly so, I hope I'm assuming correctly, that this is, the small businesses that you're referring to are the businesses that really support the mental, emotional, financial, and social growth and stability of the young people you're working with. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't do anything these days that doesn't have a collateral impact to it.
I mean, listen.
Like, unless I can have it turn into about 50 different things of positive impact, because I always explain it to this way, and we have to go way back to the biological chain that we learn about in elementary school or middle school or whatever. And I murdered this on purpose, but it's like the grasshopper gets eaten by the wolf and the wolf gets eaten by the bear. And like that cycle, right?
Yeah.
Pull anything out of that cycle and now the whole food chain is disrupted, right? So
cue the Lion King. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so I constantly think, well, how can we make that cycle a positive impact of things, pull things out, put things in, collateral nature of positivity. And so, yes, I work a lot with small business owners. I've spent the last couple of years actually doing a lot of pro bono work with small business owners, usually about to lose their business or new to business. And my hypothesis is if I help these people, especially they're the ones that don't have the rich uncle, right? And I believe their abilities to be successful, I believe that it's a lack of confidence around the business subject. And so I know this because I went through it myself, right? I was never going to be an entrepreneur. I was kind of forced into it. I had to learn the hard way. Nobody helped me. And so I really do a lot to help people with their businesses. And my hypothesis is if I help them with their business, now they have good hearts for where they came from. Now they brought their own success on and they have resources to change things, right? And that's why small business actually is the greatest concept on earth, because it brings resources to people to make change in whatever they want. And it can be the business at times, or it can just be the resources at times that allows you the ability. Business people actually change the world if you really look at it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. You have multiple businesses though.
Yeah.
Like, before we even got onto this, went live today, you were telling me that you kind of confuse people by the magnitude of things that you do. Can you tell me a little bit more beyond, believe this podcast, about what does the life of Tyler look like when it comes to helping businesses, helping people, helping specifically young people?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we have podcast Bully This, which we do. And then on top of that, my business partner and I have a small real estate firm, that doesn't take up a ton of time, but we do some work on that. We also have a consulting company where I do like I said, a lot of pro bono consulting, but I do have some big clients that we help. And then on top of that, we're working on a startup that we've been slow burning for the last 2 years that actually kind of helps solve a lot of the dilemmas around small businesses, bands them together so we can have a greater voice. I do a lot with that sort of stuff too, trying to help with regulation around what's important for small business. So we do that. We actually, my project in Cambodia is a new podcast docu-series called Redefining Heroes, which is basically where we explore the globe and we try to find heroes of the world doing amazing work, because my hypothesis there is if kids start to look at these people as heroes as opposed to some of the celebrities we have to look up to now, the world
say a lot of the people in the back.
Yeah, the world becomes an absolute better place. And so I don't know if I'm supposed to let the cat out of the bag totally on the human that we went to visit in Cambodia, but I feel like I'm a worldly person. I've traveled a lot, I've explored a lot, I've volunteered a lot, but the man I met in Cambodia truly floors me. I've been watching him for years as a personal hero, and even meeting him and my lofty expectations, the man surpassed them 100%. Like
That's amazing.
I could not, like, we didn't find a hero, we found a saint. It's
Right.
just like unbelievable human being, and I'm tempted to like let loose because his story, even of what he's given up to do what he's doing now, and the work and the impact is just, it's incredible. And so what's lucky for me is all these business endeavors, and we've had several businesses over the years, lots of different industries. So I'm comfortable, navigating in just about anything. I've consulted with a lot of different people, worked with huge companies, and so that's allowed me a lot of versatility in what business is. I have a big understanding of it now from working in these systems. What I try to bring is that to the philanthropy realm, right? So our Redefining Heroes podcast is a self-sustaining, efficient charity. Because what we do is we go over there, we bring awareness, and content is the biggest, this right here is the biggest currency on the planet. What we're doing right now is the biggest currency on the planet. So why can't we use that for more good? I don't want to like throw the Kardashians under the bus because it's not my way to really talk bad on people. But if we could watch a little bit more guy in Cambodia and a little bit less Kardashian, guess what happens? The same YouTube channel gets monetized, the same social media networks get monetized. So with our channel, we monetize everything. The money goes to the charity. Also, at the same time, we're bringing awareness to the charity we're at. And while we're boots on the ground, we're helping train them to be more successful in their own content marketing so they can bring more funds in the door as well. So
That's so key. Sorry to interrupt for one second. I want to pinpoint that. That's so key that we need to be mindful about what we're consuming, especially not just with the world of the Kardashians and YouTube and things like that, but the obviously the Instagram reels that we're now seem to be obsessed with, and TikTok and all that sort of things, and really being mindful of what our thoughts, what we're fueling our thoughts with, being able to like really create, and I'm saying this kind of ironically, given that the sign beside me says that our life is what our thoughts make it. The way that we are sort of allowing ourselves to be spoon-fed some of the shit, quite frankly, that we're allowing it to be fed is it's mind-blowing. Are there like, so if we're going to like talk about this human in Cambodia that I'm super excited to hear more about when the time is right, how are we facilitating getting that content in front of people so that we can start reprogramming that narrative?
So obviously we do the same thing like we do with Bully This, where we will have, much like you do, a YouTube channel, and then we push it out through social media. Luckily, my partner and I have become very in tune with having a lot of businesses on how to use social media as a marketing tool. Our first business was a nationally known business, and we spent probably in total in the company's 10 years before we sold it, maybe $3,000 on marketing. Everything was done organically through the entire business. And this was a business that had, clients like the Rolling Stones and the WWE and Facebook and, all these people. And it was literally all from a bootstrapper, scrappy, using social media, and I actually wasn't even good at it back then. This is all new for me because I was deathly afraid of it. It's just, I think you should approach your fears, and it's worth approaching your fears for good. I didn't do anything with social media. The business had some, and we used it well, the little bit we did do, and then that actually kind of paralleled our marketing continuation. But I guess the point is using content as a resource for good is actually, I don't know why it's not done more often. Like it's like one of those things. It's like, why hasn't anybody else done that? And so, but yeah.
Well, they say that sex sells almost as much as fear does. So maybe that's part of it. We've got the sexy Kardashians and the fear-based everything else. It's wild.
It's coming off that too. It's like just being in Cambodia, literally crawling around in like trash piles with little kids not wearing shoes. And then you come back on and all of a sudden you throw on Netflix and it's like Selling Sunset, and it's these like fake people talking about million. It's like, they feel alien to me, especially after being in, like I'm worldly anyways. I'm always thinking about this stuff. But then, like, if anybody, okay, I got to let you know about Scott, but just because, like, it makes my point so well. So
Okay.
Scott is actually a guy, if you don't mind that I derail for just slightly
Totally.
a second. Okay.
I like
So,
derailing. Yes.
yeah. So Scott is a guy that dropped out of high school. And so
Okay.
it's important for the kids out there to know that he was and that's why he hits so many levels of things that I'm passionate about. Like, kids, you can make some mistakes and still do things in life. And this guy is a shining example. High school dropout, becomes a projectionist in a movie house, right? And from that, he becomes president of Fox Studios. And he does X-Men, and he does Braveheart, and he does Titanic. And he's hobnobbing with Tom Cruise, and he's hobnobbing with Mel Gibson and all these people. And so he goes and he takes a trip over to Cambodia because he actually got a job offer in Sony's to run Sony Studios as president. And he takes 6 weeks off. He goes to Cambodia. He sees these kids literally living in a trash pile. Their parents don't put them in school or anything because they can't afford it. And they're like dying in this trash pile because it's so dangerous. They're collecting like cans and stuff for like $3 a day. And he's out there, and this impacts his whole life. He has the multi-million-dollar house, he has the cars, he has the celebrity girlfriend, he has all this stuff. And so at first he tries to, okay, well, I'm going to keep my job and I'm going to fund this operation. And it just wouldn't work very well. He wasn't there. Like, things would get done wrong. He would go there and kids would be running up to him. Can I please go to school? And stuff like that. And so finally he makes this decision. And you really should watch the show when it comes out, because there's this pivotal moment that's just incredible. But he makes this decision. He sells everything, quits the job, and goes over there. He's got 1,700 kids now that he knows by name. This is just incredible. Like, I wouldn't believe it. Like, I was looking for somewhere he was like disguising that he knew their names, or, like, knew their birthdays. He'd walk up to him and he's like, "It's your birthday," He'd like hand him something, and like, he just... I watched him hold a woman who's dying's hand in this cement floor room, like, it just, and she's crying, and speaking to him in Cambodia, and I can't understand, but like, there was this emotion and this smile that came across her face because this amazing human is sitting there holding her hand, and it's just like, you know what? That's real. That is real, and that is like, this man is like unbelievable. I'm in the moment with him. I'm standing next to him, and I just can't believe it. Like, I can't believe that there's a guy like this. He walks the lot every single night looking for other kids that, might be in trouble. How he helps the neighbor. He feeds the parents too, so they won't take him out of school to work, houses them. Anyways, I've stolen enough. But
no, I love it.
Amazing human being. And it's important for kids on every level to hear a story like his.
I think... So there are so many things I want to say. One of the first things that comes to mind as you're telling me that story is about how important it is, especially in the age that we're living in at the moment, where, it seems as though we have a generation that constantly wants everything immediately and constantly wants success overnight and constantly feels a sense of lacking. And we've always heard of the keeping up with the Joneses kind of mentality, but we're now really as a Western society, I should say, we tend to focus heavily on the feelings of lack, and I think social media has a huge part to have to that whole process, and I think just the mere ability to hear those stories of people who are stepping out of their comfort zones and outside of what we often feel is healthy, normal, safe, financially safe, I mean, or even just kind of abstract, that by doing that, there's a lot of strength there, and there's a lot of opportunities to be a better human on a spiritual level and on an emotional level. And I think it really helps bring things into perspective. When you've got kids who are like, oh, my life is over because I didn't get the new iPhone or or whatever it is, when being able to balance that with, okay, actually there are some other ways to look at how I want to live my life. And you kind of touched on it earlier when you talked about academic intelligence being such a focal point for young people. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning with Robert Greene, the author, when he was talking about how there are actually 5 or 7 types of intelligence that we don't often foster in the academic world specifically, or just in normal Western culture. And that includes like spatial intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence for like sports stars, etc., musical intelligence, obviously, which is what I'm passionate about, linguistic intelligence, logical and mathematical intelligence. There are all these kinds of types of intelligence that I think, if we're going to go back to your podcast, you really do a fantastic job of supporting that and really, talking to teenagers to help them recognize that, okay, they may not fit into this specific box that society is trying to fit them into. But realistically speaking, in order to be a happy, healthy, functioning human being, what we need to do is recognize our zone of genius, recognize our freak flag, whatever that looks like, and step into those spaces unapologetically.
Oh, I could not agree more. I absolutely, and like, luckily I'm reading a Malcolm Gladwell book, who's the author right now.
Yes.
And I do a lot of that research so I can help, kids with the ideas and stuff. But he's talking about this guy who's a dyslexic guy and had a really hard time in high school, really struggled, didn't think he was going to be anything more than a carpenter. Wife talks him into going to law school. He had to memorize everything because he couldn't really read. He's one of the best lawyers in the country because his memory is insane and he's good at reading people. So here he's used, and Malcolm Gladwell is great at this in his book, David and Goliath. He's great at showing you how what seems to be a disadvantage can be an advantage. And I believe my entire life is based on this, right? The reason everybody asked me about my first business, I started my first business with $4,000 and became a multi-million-dollar company. And the reason I was able to do it is because I was aware of the disadvantage. And I said, by the way, what can I use as an advantage? And the thing I knew that I could do is I could sacrifice more, right? Like, a lot of people don't look at the disadvantage or the advantage of the situation. I had nothing, right? And so I had nothing to lose in a way, except I would have been homeless. So that's a fear driver too to be successful.
I've been there. It's not that bad.
I've been there too. And so you just look at what you do have, right? And I had the ability to work hard because I had always been full-time in work, full-time college, that sort of stuff. So the hours weren't anything new to me. And I knew I could outwork everybody. And so you just look at the advantage, and 99%, well, excuse me, to be exactly correct, 64% of the time the underdog will actually win.
Yep. Which is why MMA can be so much fun to watch, right?
Oh, absolutely. Talk about tension action.
No, I love that.
There is nothing better on the planet for stress. The camaraderie you experience with amazing people. I can't say enough good things about the MMA community and the people I've become close with from it, And honestly, Cliff and I don't talk about fighting as solving the problem on the podcast. People might actually would not know that, we don't talk once about fighting, I mean, we talk about fighting in analogies, but we don't say, hey, you have a bully, solve your problem by fighting. That's not anything to do with the podcast, even though that's the number one piece of advice most people would give. Oh, punch your bully. Watch that documentary, Bully. This kid on the bus is getting picked on by a kid like 6 years older than him. He's not going to punch this guy. It's not going to end well. Everybody can see that. So that's not always the answer.
No, Tyler, there's so many things that I want to talk to you about. Unfortunately, we have come to the time cap for today, but I love all of the ways that you show up for yourself, for your community, for teenagers, for entrepreneurs, for small businesses, for people who I might even talk to you more about off this podcast about, the social media stuff and all the ways that you're showing up in that way. I love your passion and your ability to streamline and hone that passion towards the good, If people want to get in touch with you, obviously you are on Instagram at Tyler Uriah, which is TYLER URIAH. You're on Twitter with the same handle. You are on LinkedIn, which is Tyler Copenhaver-Heath. Try saying that 10 times fast. Yeah. And of course, your tyleruriah.com and the Believe This podcast. Is there anything that you would like to empower people with as like your last statement for today on this specific episode of Reconnect the Teenager?
There's a lot of delusions in this world, and you got to think of it this way: people put a lot of money into making you believe that life is a certain way, that stuff is going to make you happy. So number one, I would say that's the biggest delusion of this world. And number two is, if you're an underdog out there right now, don't let the world tell you, don't let anybody else make excuses for you. You can do anything you absolutely want in this life. I truly believe in it, and I hope that doesn't sound like a Saturday afternoon special. You can do it. You're just going to have to probably work a little bit harder if you don't have all the breaks.
I love that. I think you need to get out of my head, because I often tell people we live in a world that is constantly telling us how to be, how to show up, and what labels to assign to ourselves. But at the end of the day, you are the writer of your song. Don't let the world write it for you. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much to the iRanch Network for helping us with this wonderful Tuesday. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Have an amazing day on purpose. And remember to, call your mother. She needs to hear from you, okay?
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Tyler.
Breaking in my headspace, trying to get my feelings straight. I've overthought my mistakes. I drink water to wine, so hard to stay sober. I'm damaged and I'm love stoned, so hard to remain in control. Rewriting what I thought I'd know, and I'm drinking it in with a lesson ain't over. And I can almost pinpoint where we went wrong. I'm not about the sad songs. The foundation said I'm good to go. No matter what comes my way, I'll be smiling every step I take. I'm a legend, make no mistake, that I'm living proof that love wins. No matter what the future holds, I'm here and I'm not letting go. I'm a legend, baby, you should know that I'm living proof that love wins. Living proof that love wins. Who I used to be, but I'm not going down quietly. I know I create my destiny. When it's bright as light, the evergreen knows it. I left behind the what if. I broke up with the negative. I'm flirting with abundance, and I'm drinking it in. My purpose is magic. I can almost pinpoint where my love began. I'm so glad that I know who I am, 'cause I'm the woman, I'm not the man. Whoa. No matter what comes my way, I'll be loving every step I take. I'm a legend, make no mistake. I'm living proof that love wins. No matter what the future holds, I'll be here and I'm not letting go. I'm a legend, baby, you should know. I'm living proof that love wins. I'm living proof that love wins. No matter what comes my way, prove that love will